Wonderful. Well, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about a new era of accounting that's coming in on the draft of artificial intelligence, and specifically how that impacts healthcare. Before we get started, let me go through a few housekeeping notes for our attendees. First of all, thank you very much for joining us. If you have questions today during the course of the presentation, please use the Q&A function that is provided. Some of you might be here for CPE credit. If you are, please keep in mind that all poll questions must be answered. And we have a kind of a fun special bonus for our first poll question, which I'll tell you about when we get there. Following the webinar, you're going to be receiving at least one, possibly two emails. Everybody will be getting an email from me, which will contain a copy of the slides, a link to the recording of today's presentation, and a link to a survey. I put the surveys together. They're very short. We would love it if you would provide us with your input. Just allow up to 48 hours to receive that. If you are here for CPE credit, you will receive a separate email with your CPE certificate, and that will be coming from a separate email from our sister company. And they ask that you allow up to 2 weeks to receive your certificate. If you don't receive your certificate after 2 weeks, I've got my contact information here. Get in touch with me and I'll run that down. I've only had to do it twice. We're really good about getting your certificates, but in the event that happens, you know where to find me. So at this point, I'm going to be turning it over to the president of LBMC Technology Solutions, Brian Wilton.
All right. Thank you, Dawn, and hello, everyone. And as Dawn said, good morning, good afternoon to each one that's joined. And so before we kind of kick off, I just want to give just a couple of minute overview of a little bit of background on LBMC technology, not background meaning history, but some things we do. Today, we're talking primarily about ERP or the accounting systems, at least one of those that we do a lot of work around. And so we're going to be speaking about Sage Intacct for the most part today. And so that's kind of that ERP circle over there, third from the left. But I just generally like to make sure that everyone knows that it's a major part of our business, but it's not the only thing we do. With ERP or accounting systems, sometimes we need to maybe bend those systems a little bit, do some modification, if you will, of some of the software platforms. And so you see way over there on the far right that we do a lot of software development, or what people would generally say custom programming. And along with that, we do tons of integration work. So I think we figured out that about 70% of customers have 2 or more integrating products. And so it's not uncommon today to have integration with outside systems. Of course, in healthcare, your electronic medical records solution, we generally are always integrating with that, regardless of what it is. So there's not one that's out there that we haven't been able to grab the data and bring in as a journal entry every month or every week for you, so that you have that revenue sitting over in the accounting software. So integration is a big part of the work, along with ERP solutions. And then kind of back over on the left, all those traditional IT services and solutions, then support that go along with all those other things that you do. So accounting software is a big piece of that. We're talking today about a cloud product, and so there's nothing to install or have on your own server or even on your desktop workstations or laptops. But you certainly have email, you have probably file storage, you have a domain you log into every day, and there's tons of work around that we do every day. And the big thing with that is security today. And so that's something that we are heavily focused on in protecting our clients, their systems, their processes that are automated, that flow through that network. And we want everyone to make sure that they're as absolute safe as possible. And we put a lot of solutions in place to try to protect as much as we can. We can't stop people from clicking on links and emails that they shouldn't, but we can certainly try to filter those emails out before they get to someone that could click on that link that's going to bring a catastrophic result. And so that's a major part of our business right now and has been for several years on that security piece. And then the next one over is kind of just a generic one called automation. And lots of folks today prefer not to have to do so many mouse clicks. Everybody's mastered the mouse, decades ago. And, every time you reach and click the mouse and have to do something, that takes time. And some of that we'll never eliminate. But we can eliminate a lot of things that are, repetitive tasks. I don't want to say they're not important. They're extremely important, but they're repetitive. And so there's tons of automation available. Some of that involves artificial intelligence. Some of that is just simple things like workflow, where a process can trigger off something. A document might trigger off a workflow to be routed for approval, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels, depending on criteria that you decide, and we help you set up, and then ultimately come back into, in this case, maybe the ERP system to complete a transaction with the related approvals. And so there's lots of automation that's integrated with ERP solutions, but there's a lot of automation that's outside of that. If you think about a physician's office or a clinic, there's a lot of documents that have to be filled out and routed and stored, and they have nothing to do with the accounting system directly. They contain all the patient data. And so there's tons of automation that can be in place with that. We do work for several insurance companies. So if you've ever bought insurance or had to file a claim or ever sold insurance, there's a plethora of steps and documents, some of those still hard copy documents that get turned into electronic versions. And so that whole automation piece is really becoming a big thing kind of in technology. So lots of solutions that LBMC has available. And we're talking again specifically today about the ERP or the accounting solution options, but keep us in mind if there's other things that we can help with. And I like to tell everyone we've got about 130 people that get up every day kind of focused on and working to make your businesses better and safer in those things that you're faced with in your technology space every day of the week. So at this time, I want to turn it over to our sponsor, who is Mr. Wayne Richards from AvidXchange. We've been a partner with AvidXchange, headquartered out of Charlotte. We have an office in Charlotte, and we've worked with Avid for a long time, and they've been a great partner. It's a great partnership. But Wayne, I'll let you chat for a few minutes here and tell the folks a little bit about Avid and what they bring into the solution mix here.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate everyone's time. I will be fairly brief today, which is tough for me in most cases, but my name's Wayne, work for AvidXchange. I've been here for about 8 years, played a number of different roles in our solutioning space, worked for a couple different teams. Most recently, I lead our team that focuses on specific verticals, one of them being the healthcare, senior living, acute care, and very similar industries. So I appreciate everyone's time and attention today. I'm going to dive into a little bit, kind of a sneak preview of a market research survey that AvidXchange conducted just earlier this year, where we surveyed about 500 finance leaders in the mid-market space and where their thoughts are on AI and some other things. But we're going to focus on AI today. What we found was 65% of finance leaders currently report that using AI in their role is important in their department. And when we break that down, what does that mean? Is embracing AI, embracing what this machine learning, all of this really cool technology that's come apart is really starting to be at the forefront of finance leaders. In tangent with us, there's a McKinsey report which was summarized here, reported that most companies are not yet realizing the significant earnings gains from the AI investments, meaning maybe they've started to, kind of dip their toes in the AI space, but they're not sure on what they're getting back. And personally, and probably as an organization, we felt that early on. There's all of this talk about AI. What can we start to do with it in order to get a tangible ROI? Now, while the vast majority see AI as being a positive and that they're using it, they're also concerned with, am I getting everything that I need out of this? Now, there are several other parts of this report. So if anyone is interested, be happy to share the entire report. It's some light reading on a Tuesday afternoon. But before I adjourn my session, just a little bit about AvidXchange. We've been in business for the last 24 years, publicly traded since October of 21. We're located all across the U.S. We employ over 1,600 employees, and in many cases, those are all of our customer-facing roles. So customer success, customer onboarding, supplier success, a number of different success roles for our clients. We got over 8,000 customers, lots and lots of transactions and spend under management. But really where we play in this space and how we're different is we have an extremely large supplier network where we're paying customers and these suppliers on our customers' behalf. And we have a number of different referral relationships, LBMC being one of our most positive and longest lasting. And then last, something that Brian was bringing up before is how technology can talk to one another. So we have a lot of customizations, a lot of experience in getting to work with different unique accounting systems, ERPs. And the most important part there is as you grow, as your needs change, the customization tends to be a little bit more of a need and a requirement. Now, I believe we have a poll question. So I believe you're going to get a pop-up.
Yes, we sure do. And thank you to AvidXchange for sponsoring. They have generously donated a $250 Amazon gift card. And for everybody who answers this first poll question, you'll automatically be entered into a drawing to receive that $250 gift card. So your chances are pretty good. And the poll question is your organization currently using AI technology in your finance department? Yes, no, but we have plans to. We are interested in doing, no, but we're interested in doing so. And no, we are not interested in doing so. So I'll give everybody just a few more minutes, well, seconds actually, if I'm being accurate. And I'm going to close it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here are the results. A lot of people, 32% already using it, but 41% are interested in doing so moving forward. Very interesting. Right. And I will pull the slides back up and we will bring Linda Pinion on for the first part of her presentation.
Thank you so much, Dawn, and thank you, Wayne and Brian. I was making some quick notes here, and it's always interesting to me that we tend to build off of each other. I heard some words in your opening, Brian, that are, right alongside things that I want to talk about today. Working smart, taking advantage of technology, Wayne talking about automation and how we can help you have that data faster, quicker, more accurate, eliminating some of those things that, as you said, Brian, are important, although we'd like to have a quicker way, a faster way, not be entering data multiple times by multiple people. So these are all things that I want to talk about as well, and then expand that a little bit. But at the end of all this, when I net this out, it's really about growth. It's about how are you going to grow your business? So when we get into looking at some of the ways that we can grow our business, technology is truly going to foster and advance how we roll this out. So today we have some key objectives, and of course one of those is to understand maybe a little more clearly how AI, artificial intelligence, is going to play a role in the accounting industry. And certainly today we're focused on healthcare, but this is not just a healthcare solution. This is a technology that's going to span all of the accounting teams. We also want to focus on how do we get there. And one of the key ways that we get there is to make sure that we have accurate data. And you'll hear me say this again, that if you can't see it, you can't be accountable for it. And many of you probably have more data than you've ever had. The question becomes, can you organize it in a manner that makes sense so you can use it for decision making? And probably more important than that, do you trust the data? And trusting the data is of utmost importance, because if you don't trust the data, we're probably got more problems than we thought we did. And then the last one is helping you get your head and your arms around what's your plan for AI adoption. Do you have a plan? Have you thought about it? Have you talked about it with your teams? We hear about AI every time we turn on the radio, the TV, when we attend events like this. We hear about it, but are you really taking advantage of sitting down and building that strategic plan for how your company and your teams are going to embrace artificial intelligence? So those are our key objectives today. So one thing that I do want to step back and just say before I jump into some data points for you is I am going to turn my video off for bandwidth purposes today. So before I do that, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more formally. I am from Sage Intact. I've been here for almost 14 years, and I've worked with LBMC for the entire 12, 13 years that they have been on board. I remember when they first became one of our partners, and today I'm happy to say that we're still working together and they are a premier partner for us. So you're in good hands, as they say, with Brian and Don and the rest of the team at LBMC. And again, thank you so much, Wayne, for joining us today from Avid. I've been in Avid's office, had presentations with LBMC at Avid's office. If you have a chance to go to their office, it's beautiful. I love going there and presenting. They have an excellent facility. All right, so let me turn my video off and let's get started. So just like Wayne was talking about, sometimes we want to know, we want to poll the audience, so to speak. And we did that via our relationship with Forrester. And Forrester is, one of the leading analysts, and we commissioned this study with Forrester to understand a little bit more about how finance leaders felt about artificial intelligence, and the result of that was some predictions and some insight. And Forrester made 5 predictions for the financial area. And these are predictions by the year 2030. Now, I don't know about you, but 2030 sounded like, years and years away, and 2030 is not that far off. So let's go ahead and look at a little bit of the data that they pulled together to make these predictions. So there were 5 predictions that they came up with. I'm going to touch on each one of these briefly. The first one is ethical AI leadership, and just know that AI is always standing for artificial intelligence, so I won't keep calling that out. But ethical AI leadership. Here's the way that, you should think about AI. Years ago, people thought, oh my goodness, when we have this computer program, it's just going to go off with a mind of its own, and it's just going to start printing checks and making decisions and doing all this stuff. And I'm not going to tell it to do that. It's just going to have a mind of its own and do it. I think a lot of people are concerned that AI may do that same thing, that it's going to make all these decisions for you without any rules or without any guidelines or guardrails in place. And ethical AI is really about making sure that you are focused on security and doing the right thing and offering that transparency and making sure that you have everything in place to be that good corporate citizen. You want to make sure that you have all of those guidelines set and that you're following that path. And for us at Sage Intact, we have a whole team that focuses on nothing but that. We want to be responsible with how we are utilizing AI. And for much of what we're doing today with AI, a lot of that is invisible to you, the user. It's behind the scenes. It's happening, it's working, but you're maybe not seeing anything. So again, another reason that we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing. The second prediction is around risk management. And it's really, when they polled this 2,300 SMBs, they found that 90% of them by the year 2030 would leverage AI for continuous monitoring and anomaly detection. So let me kind of explain what that means. We're going to capture this data, and then we're going to use AI to validate that it's accurate. And if we see any wonky, that's my technical term for it, wonky things in the data, we see things that are unusual, that are anomalies, then we want to make sure that we warn you of that. So before you post those transactions, before you put that into the ledger, you have an opportunity to correct that, to evaluate it. So we want to be proactive as opposed to being reactive. And when we allow you to find those errors quickly and correct them, we're building that history so that we're reducing the number of times that it happens and literally reducing that by approximately 95%. The third prediction is around the monthly close. And again, this is an activity that every company, every organization has to deal with. It's just part of being in that accounting world. We go through many activities and tasks to get the close done. And it's the same thing every month that we go through. Those closing entries, those cost allocations, especially when you're in a multi-company type of organization and you want to take a cost and allocate it across, maybe based on some metric like headcount or revenue. That's a manual journal entry that has to be determined at month end and then posted, maybe has to go through an approval process. So we want to make that whole close process a thing of the past, that it really doesn't exist. It doesn't need to exist because we are continuously closing. Now, the only way that we can do that is to have data that's real time and that is accurate. So again, we want to take those tasks and activities that we're doing on a repetitive basis, and we want to use AI to help us go back in history, catch those things that don't look quite right, and improve that process so that we can reduce the number of days that it takes to close the month. The fourth prediction was around the real-time data. And again, if you start out with what's the most important thing, it's the data, making sure that it's there, that you're capturing it, and that it's accurate. And most of the people indicated, over 70% of them indicated, that that was the thing that was going to empower them and help drive growth in their companies and organizations. And then the fifth prediction is around, changing how the accountants work and how they think. So instead of them having to be in a tactical role, we want them to be in a more strategic role. And when you automate those routine tasks and eliminate all of the time that the accountants were spending on those repetitive tasks, then you give them the opportunity to create new processes and new ways and new areas that they can look at and evaluate to help grow the business and drive business strategy. So those are the 5 predictions, the insights that came out of that study that Forrester did for us. So what's the Sage Intact view of AI? So our concept is that accountants are not going to go away. AI is not going to eliminate all of the accountants. We want to elevate the work of the accountants. We want to give you the information that you need so that you can be more strategic and that those repetitive tasks can be done in a more timely manner and in an automated manner. We also want to introduce and foster this idea of continuous innovation, continuous consolidation. And that has led us to really adopt AI. And in some cases, as I said, it's under the covers. You don't really know that it's happening, but it's there. Where are we going with that? Well, I'm going to introduce you to a few things we've already done and then talk to you about, what our next step is. And it's about something called Sage Copilot. And it's something that we have not released to our entire install base yet, but we have our first application of it. It's now being utilized by a handful of customers, somewhat in a beta environment, and it does have to do with that financial close. So let's talk about that continuous value and thinking more strategically. So the first circle that you see here is continuous accounting. Because of the way that we're structured, and you'll see that when we jump into product in just a few minutes, when we look at how we're structured, and for most of you in the healthcare world, you're multi-facility, or as we like to say, multi-entity. As an example, if you're, doctors or clinics or dental practices, or as Wayne mentioned, senior living, if you're utilizing multiple companies and trying to consolidate them together, we want that consolidation to be continuous. We don't want you to have to stop and do some manual intervention to make that happen. So capturing that data, capturing it and making sure that we can trust it, that's what continuous accounting is. And then the continuous assurance, we talked about validation. We talked about utilizing AI to help us track or trap, whichever word you choose here, those transactions that don't look quite right. Utilizing machine learning to see when there's patterns in the data that we've never seen before, and warning you and throwing out those exceptions to you so that you can take care of them before those transactions are posted into the ledger. So making sure that we're continuously checking that data and giving you the assurance that it is accurate. And that leads us to that continuous insight. When we free accounting teams up from doing all of those repetitive transactions, those closings, those audits, when we free that up and you don't have to keep focused on that every day, then we give you continuous insights because we're capturing and logging real-time data. So it's really a continuous cycle. You don't maybe recognize that it's happening But when you start making business decisions from that data, you'll feel comfortable and assured that that data is accurate and that you are making the decisions in a timely manner. So just another little quick advertisement here for where we are with Sage AI. We have 16 AI services in 8 products. We're globally rolling this out across 7 different countries with 9 more in development that will be released in the next 6 months. So this is a huge team for us of people that was started several years ago, and we are continuing to add. We are continuing to utilize AI and have that in everything that we are doing going forward. So where
I'm gonna drop in a poll question here.
okay.
And earlier you heard Linda talk about the 5 predictions. And so in this poll question, the question is, which predictions are the most intriguing to you? And you can choose more than one. But of the 5 things that the Forrester research and interviews with the finance leaders came across, which ones kind of pique your interest?
So I'm going to take a bet, Dawn. I'm going to
Oh,
bet that
we always do this. It's so fun.
one of them I think will be seeing the end of life on the monthly close.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close this down in 5 seconds. So I'll count this down: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And very close, Linda. Decision making is driven by real-time data was number 1, followed by monthly close sees end of life.
There you go. I agree with you on monthly close sees end of life. And in another life, I was part of that accounting team, and nothing else happened during close except close. There was no vacation, there was no getting sick. I mean, everybody had to be on board and in attendance because, the world could stop, but we had to get the month end close. So I totally agree with that. So, this will be of interest to you. Where are we today with AI and product? So one of the things that we have tackled is AP bill automation. So when I think about what goes on in a healthcare organization, what's top of mind for them from a requirement standpoint? Well, in the top 5, reporting is always important. I mean, we always hear that. We hear, what can we do to free up time? So what repetitive things that have to be done can we automate? Can we reduce the time and activity spent to do that? Well, let's face it, all of us have to pay bills, whether it's professional or personal. I don't know how we get out of this life without paying bills. And it's a time consuming activity. Wayne can endorse this. How much time do you spend just organizing and entering and approving and printing checks and going through that whole process? It's a very labor intensive activity. And guess what? It happens every week, week after week. So if we can automate that, we're going to free up a lot of time, and more than likely, we're going to have better reporting, better analysis, and it's probably going to improve our cash flow as well. So automating AP is a huge thing. Take that same activity and perhaps you start your process with a purchase order or a purchase requisition. So how can we introduce some automation there? And how can we utilize AI to plug in that coding for you, to check that coding to make sure that it's accurate and eliminate some of that checking and rechecking and auditing of that information? The GL outlier detection. So what does that mean? It's kind of a fancy term for saying, I've got a journal entry. I want to make sure that that journal entry is accurate before it gets posted. So the GL outlier is a way for AI and machine learning to be active behind the scenes in Sage Intacct, and it's going to warn you. It's going to give you an opportunity to see what it captured or caught when it analyzed those transactions. And if it finds something that doesn't look accurate, we're going to give you a GL outlier notification. We call it an exception, and we're going to tell you what's wrong with it, what doesn't look right, and give you a chance to fix that before you approve it. Not sure that Sage Intelligent Time is a big play in healthcare, but I'm going to explain to you what it is, because you may have people who are tracking their time, and that time that they are tracking ultimately ends up turning into some sort of billing activity for you. So how wonderful would it be if I could start that process automatically by Sage Intelligent Time capturing my time and starting that timesheet for me. So it's going to look at my calendar, it's going to look at my phone, it's going to look at every place that it sees where I am spending time, and it's going to automatically put that on a timesheet. And then I'll have an opportunity to go in and complete the missing information on that timesheet before I turn it in for approval. We call it Sage Intelligent Time. The next one is bank reconciliation. Well, it kind of goes up to that conversation about the monthly close. That's one of the things that has to be done in order for you to get the month closed. And how often are you waiting for that information from the bank? And then when you get it, it's a manual process of matching and clearing and creating that new outstanding items list. We've got a couple of things that are going to help you utilizing AI. The bank reconciliation, we're going to use something called matching rules. And the bank transaction assistant is going to help you import that data and match it for those customer payments. So again, something that has to be done in every organization that I've worked with is the bank rec. How can we help you do it faster and more accurately? And then the last is what we have introduced in Sage Copilot. So the first phase of this, again, not for the general population yet. It will be coming early 2025, and it will be released in phases. And that is starting out with Copilot having a financial close assistant is what it's called. So now we're going to push that information to you automatically. We're going to push those messages. We're going to give you the ability to look at all of that information in dashboard format, and we're proactively going to use AI to feed that information to you. So Copilot is going to be your assistant that's going to help you move that process along faster so that you can, in fact, close the month faster. So look for more about Sage Copilot. Get with your LBMC team and talk about how Copilot is going to be rolled out in 2025.
All right. Poll question number 3. All right. Are you interested in LBMC Tech explaining how to use AI in your organization and how you might benefit from AI? And this isn't just limited to ERP. If you think back to the beginning of the presentation when Brian was telling you about the different products and services that we have, there are other ways that we might be able to help you deploy AI beyond just ERP. So I'll give this a few more seconds. And we'll wrap this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it looks like most of the activity is slated for 2025.
Okay. All right, so Dawn, are you ready for me to share my screen?
I am. It's all yours.
All right, thank you so much. So Dawn, if you could just verify that you can see my screen okay, you should be looking at a role-based controller dashboard.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
seeing ABC Medical Center
All
dashboard.
right, you're in the right place. All right, so for those of you who have not seen Sage Intacct, I'm going to start with the end at the beginning. As I said, most healthcare organizations are utilizing some sort of multi-company type of an environment. The advantage with that is in Sage Intacct, we're continuously consolidating. So just to bring you up to speed at what you're looking at, I've logged in today as the controller. Her name is Emma. She's a super user. All of the security and permissioning is running behind her. In this one instance of Sage Intacct, I've built out a multi-entity environment. Entity is the same thing as company in case that's foreign to you. And what you see here is that I have ABC Hospital, I have some clinics, I have a surgery center, and then I have some future entities that I've also placed out there. But my three main entities or companies, 100, 200, 300, are the ones that I'm transacting in today. Now, what's important is that when I log in as the controller, it lands me right on my controller dashboard. These are the things that are important to me. And everything that you're looking at here in these initial few boxes are what we call performance cards. And these performance cards are driven by how I am configured and how I am implemented. And because I am managing those multiple entities, every one of these boxes, the numbers represented are a consolidated view. So this $52,000 in general and administrative expenses is across all of my entities. Now, when we talk about data, we talk about being able to take that data and look at it different ways. So I may be interested in knowing what this is compared to a prior month or compared to a budget. May want a visual indicator to indicate how I'm tracking. I may want to drill into this information and know more about how it looks in a report format. And once I see this data, I may want to drill into it even further to see all of the low-lying details. So in this case, I want to see what makes up that $11,000 here in office supplies. I then have the opportunity to drill into an individual transaction. So I show you this because this is what is going to help to automate and speed up everything that you want to know, because it's all going to be here right in front of you. This really eliminates that need for going to the filing cabinet. You'll notice there's lots of numbers here. There's statuses of this bill. There's also the ability to have an attachment, which could be a picture or a document. And then the coding. So how did we code this? And we've coded this to office supplies, and we've identified this as being a specific location and department. What we also have the ability to do here is to look at some posting details. If I'm the accounting person, I know exactly how it was posted to the ledger, and I can drill back to that journal. In this case, I can also look at the history, and I can see all the different dates of when things happened. And more importantly, on this transaction, I see that it was a bill, an AP bill that needed to be approved. So now I have that approval here. I know when it was done and who actually did that approval. I'm going to minimize something here real quick. And it's those controls at the top that always get in my way. So if we come back to the dashboard here, all of this information allows me to see a consolidated view without doing anything manually to make that happen. Now, there's also the ability to look at other types of information based on my role. So you can see that I've got several dashboards here set up, if I was the AP manager, or perhaps I was a department manager, I might want to see information specific to my role, so I set up my own dashboard. What I'm also able to do is to look at the data in a different way. So I looked at it in a financial perspective. I also may want to look at it in an operational way. So when I look at it, you can see that I've set up some sample data here based on a dental practice, or perhaps a skilled nursing facility, or senior care. So I am a senior living community with multiple campuses. When we start to look at that data, we're now looking at not only financial information, we're looking at operational data. And we're marrying the two together to be able to get metrics like revenue per dentist. So here, I'm taking an operational system and I'm looking at the number of treatments and the number of visits, and I'm doing some calculations against revenue. So this type of information is what's going to give me the ability to think about, how do I grow my practice? Do I add more dentists? Do I need to add more dentists? Do I need to drive more new patients into the practices? So this is the kind of information that you want to make those business decisions against. Now, let's talk about AI for a moment, and how Sage Intacct is utilizing AI and how easy it is to turn that information on. So here in the setup of Sage Intacct, we're going to turn on our ability to utilize AI. And I just wanted to point this out to you, how easy it is. It's a matter of going and subscribing to AI and machine learning. You basically turn it on, configure it, answer a couple of questions, and then it takes about 48 hours for it to start gathering that history. So once it's gathered that history, that's when you start seeing things like the GL outlier come into play. So let me just show you how that would appear to you if you had that turned on. Let's just say that you're using an outside solution for your payroll, and we're integrating those payroll entries in every month for you. We're creating a journal entry automatically that's going to be that payroll journal. It's a month-end thing that we do. It's part of that closing. And when that journal entry gets created for you, because we have GL outlier turned on, before we approve that, we're going to go through and we're going to apply and see if there's anything that looks a little out of sorts. And in this particular journal entry, it's warning us that it's found some unusual historical matches, and it's found 10 of them. So when I look at the journal entry and I look at what it's created for me, I can see the outlier column here, and it's telling me that there's a problem with the coding. So something it's found is not quite right. And so what I can see when I look at this is I can see that I hover over it and it tells me that this account and department and location combination is unusual. So I've imported this data in. It's brought in a combination of accounts that I don't normally see. Before I post this transaction, you should go look at that and make sure that it is accurate. So now I'm saving myself time to say, if I find something that's really wrong, then I want to go look at it before I post that in the ledger. So when we think about, how do we track this and how do we get that information in, there's a secret sauce, if you will, in Sage Intacct, and it's really called dimensions. And dimensions make the difference in how the data is posted. And these dimensions are here in this middle column. These are the dimensions that are in play for me. And I've set these up so that I can tag my transactions to specific dimensions, and that allows me to have all of that granular reporting that I want. So tracking that means that I'm going to be able to create that general ledger chart of accounts that only needs to contain my natural or base account. So looking at the chart, it may look different than what you use today. We don't use a segmented chart. All we need is that base or natural account. And then when we key in a transaction, that transaction is going to be one that is capturing not only the coding, but it's capturing those dimensions. So now when we start to look at an AP transaction, we're going to look at an AP transaction that has been coded to a specific GL account number and specific dimensions. So when we look at the coding here, we're going to be able to code it to a specific account. And once we code it to that account, we're then going to be able to also tag it to whatever department that transaction belongs to, and then whatever location. So remember, we have multiple locations that we're working with here. So we're going to tag this to the housekeeping department and to the ABC hospital. When we post this transaction, we're then going to be able to get that granular reporting to filter by any of those 12 predefined dimensions. We also are going to be able to utilize our AP automation if we choose to, and being able to receive that AP bill from our vendor automatically, either by email or by scanning. We're going to upload that bill and then have it create that bill for us. When it creates that bill, it's going to create it in a draft mode. Again, we're going to use AI to say, okay, we've brought this bill in and we see a problem with the coding. So it's going to go through that exception process, that analyzing of that bill, and it's going to come back and tell us what we need to go in and fix. And in this case, the account number 60400 requires a department. So we would go in and we would edit this. We would come down to the line and we would then key in a department. So we're setting this up so that before these transactions get into the ledger and posted, we're going to make those corrections. Otherwise, we'd have to go back and reverse transactions and re-enter transactions. We're eliminating all that, and we're utilizing AP automation to do that. In addition to that, we are using AI and that technology to help us with bank reconciliation. So when we go into our cash management, we're connected to our bank account. We're bringing in those bank transactions. We're then utilizing something called matching rules. So AI is going to automatically match everything that it can based on these rules that we've set up. So maybe we want to match against the document and the date and maybe possibly the amount. So we set up these rules so that we can have all that matching done. So all we're really dealing with are just the exceptions, just a few transactions. And what does this get us? This gets us those bank reconciliations done faster and more accurately so that, again, we can close the month in a timely manner. So Sage Intacct AI is running behind the scene in many of our applications. These were just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you today. So Dawn, I'll let you take it back.
All right.
And as Dawn is moving forward to that, think about how you're going to create that strategic plan for your company and what are you going to think about utilizing first. Some of our customers have given us some insight out how AI has helped them, helping their team to work faster and smarter. Hundreds of thousands of customers were using AI to process invoices, to make sure that they're being coded correctly. And, customers are saying that they're literally logging into a system and getting that data in one place without having to do manual consolidations and manual work to see that. And of course, that's cutting down on a lot of the errors that happen. All right.
All right. So in this slide, all the little buttons that you see are where we have team members located throughout the United States. And we have 28 years of providing outstanding business technology solutions. As Brian said, we get up every morning thinking about how we can serve our customers. And we have over 1,200 clients in manufacturing, in healthcare, financial services, and in other verticals. So we're very proud of the team that we have assembled, and we look forward to working and providing an excellent experience for all of our clients. So that brings us to our last poll question. Oops. And this one, give this a little thought. One of the things that LBMC offers, here we go, is we would like to have a lunch and learn where we lunch and learn all about you. Today, we talked about Sage Intacct and healthcare. And if you and some members of your team are interested in some of the things that you saw today, we would be more than happy to schedule a meeting. LBMC will provide lunch. We can do this virtually. We have a service that we use that can deliver lunch to you wherever you may be, even if you have remote employees in different locations. And we can sit down and really talk about what your roadmap is, where you think maybe some of your technological gaps are, and where you'd like to see yourself in the next few years. And we'll bring our experts on board for that discussion and help you out. So we would love to do that. Just a reminder, if you are here for CPE credit, please enter or please answer the poll question.
And I would just encourage you to do that for a variety of reasons. Number one is because LBMC does great lunches. So I would definitely take advantage of that. And also because, as Brian said in his intro, they're more than just, a software evaluation help along the way. They offer so many different services, and they talk to so many different clients. They have lots of great ideas and suggestions, so they can be your trusted advisor.
Very good. All right, I'm going to close this down. And on all the poll questions, thanks everyone for your input. And I'm going to check. This is sort of last call for any questions that you might have. I've been trying to monitor as best I can. There are no open questions.
I don't see anything. Don, I've been
Yeah, I
watching
don't.
too. I don't see anything.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Linda, thank you so much for your time today. We especially thank you, and we thank Wayne from Avid Exchange. Brian, thank you for being here today and representing the LBMC Technology Solutions team.
Mhm.
And we hope to see you on a future LBMC Tech event. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Linda.